Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Fastball Sports Network WWE podcast. I am Frank. That is Mark. The reason why I'm chuckling is because it's a WWE podcast, but Mark, we're not talking about WWE today. But first, as always, how you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing well. It's Labor Day. Happy Labor Day to those who celebrate. Yeah, no, like you said, it is more of an AEW show today. There's a lot going on in the AEW world. Of course, last night was the big all-out pay-per-view. Unfortunately for them, they did have some big things happen, but the big takeaway is CM Punk. And Frank, what do you have to say about it?
I mean, this is crazy. This stuff is wild, and I've seen now a bunch of people on Twitter say that it might be a work, and I think me and you have both talked, and we said there's no way this could be a work. And if on the 1% chance, and I'm pretty sure there's like a 1% chance now that it's a work, but if on the 1% chance that it is a work, and they decided to make that the center of attention after the huge MJF return, it just wouldn't make any booking sense, right? Like that doesn't seem like this seems like something they would pick up after that feud was over, right?
It's not a work.
It's not, right?
It's
It
not a
can't
work.
be. All right, so we're gonna break down the entire timeline. We're gonna talk about the all the different little things that happened, all the promos that were cut, all the things that were said. I tried my best today to find every single thing that was talked about in the promo last night and just some other things that were going on with AEW that has basically happened dating back to AEW Double or Nothing. The date of that was 5/24, so that was May 24th. So that's basically where our timeline starts. It actually starts right before Double or Nothing. And it was the promo that Adam Page cut on CM Punk, and the two lines from that were "I don't hate you, I almost pity you," was what Page said to Punk. And then of course he ends the promo by saying, "Sunday at All or Nothing, I am not defending the AEW World Title against you. I am defending All Elite Wrestling against you." So pretty strong words, but again, it's a wrestling show. It's a wrestling promo. And I remember seeing this promo on Twitter. I didn't really think much of it.
That's a great line at the end, though. That was
Yeah,
really a
no,
good
that's a
line.
great like wrestling line. Yeah.
No, but there were some murmurs right in the beginning that there was heat at that moment. Like apparently Punk didn't appreciate those comments. Of course, why would he? He apparently went off script. And then I know you have the timeline. I want to jump to you, but then of course CM Punk had the belt out in the middle of the ring and said, "Get out here, like let's do this." But like obviously that wasn't part of the show. He wasn't going to come out there in that moment, so he kind of
Yeah.
like took his like shot back at him. So it's they both did their little unprofessional act against each other, and then of course yesterday happened.
Yeah. And then of course another big takeaway from that promo is the whole workers' rights thing, which I actually have the Punk tweet a few weeks later that everything happened with Sasha and Naomi on in WWE television, and Punk tweets, doesn't matter if your opinion of your coworkers is positive or negative, stand with them because they'll do the same thing to you and you'll wish someone helped. Trust me, you're expendable. Together you're unstoppable. Which is just listen, I'm not saying that Punk's going against that, but I'm just saying that is not the message from the AEW locker room in its current state right now. What
Yeah,
we're a far cry from that mindset that Punk was in when he tweeted that. And maybe he has his reasons to go back on that now, which we'll obviously get into. But I'm just saying that was, do we have a date for that? Hold on. I have an actual picture of the tweet. Yes, that was May 22nd. So that was 2 days before Double or Nothing. Um, and then, of course, at Double or Nothing, MJF no shows the event. MJF also a big piece in this, obviously going to be minor compared to the Punk stuff and everything else that's revolving around it. But MJF no shows AEW Double or Nothing, and then Punk defeats Adam Page for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. AEW Dynamite 6/1. So this is June 1st of this year. MJF cuts that promo, that very famous his version of the pipe bomb promo. Um, that wasn't a work either. They
I there was
turned it.
I think there was some working elements to that one, but I don't think it was a straight up. I don't think he went out there with a script. I think he definitely went off the rails, but at the same time, there was a little bit theatric.
I feel like they turned in what he said to a work. Like they turned a lot of what he said into a work after the fact. But I feel like a lot of that stuff that he was saying, well, there was a lot of truth behind what he was saying. He
Yeah,
was pissed. And of course, in that promo, he talks about Tony Khan giving a lot of the money to the ex WWE guys that he keeps bringing in. And of course, we know CM Punk is probably the most famous of the ex WWE guys that he brought in. So this all ties together in some way. But if we move on, we just go to the summer of rumors. Obviously, Punk breaks his foot at some point in time over the summer. Is not forced to relinquish the title, and then they crown the interim champion John Moxley, who's interim champion throughout the summer. They called it the Summer of Moxley on at All Out yesterday. They called it the Summer of Moxley, which I thought was funny because we have the Summer of Punk, all those years ago. So that kicks that off. Also, other things that happened during the summer. So we have Sammy Guevara continuing to to cause all the problems in the world. And then obviously it takes two to tango. So first, there are the reports that he cheated on his wife with Tay Conti. So no one knows if it's really true if they actually cheated beforehand. I mean, like this is a minor thing in the
I
scheme of things.
say this doesn't have anything to do really what we're doing here.
It just brings up the fact that again that the house is just not clean right now for AEW. There's
No,
like a lot of
it's all
there's a
reeling
lot
together.
of
There's muddy
mess
waters.
right
Yeah,
now.
it's
And
not. Mhm.
it's not something we're going to spend a lot of time on here. I'm just bringing it up because like again, it's just not clean right now. Like there's clearly a disconnect here. And then of course he gets into that altercation with Eddie Kingston where Kingston ends up punching him in the face for basically calling him fat. There was a little bit more there, but that's the basics of it.
Yeah.
Um, and then Kingston gets suspended. So Sammy Guevara adding to the drama of AEW. We also have Thunder Rosa, who she might be hurt, she might not be hurt. Nobody really knows. But now there's an interim women's champion that was crowned last night. And then she goes in the press conference. That's Tony Storm, by the way, when I say she. Tony Storm, who won the interim championship. She goes in the press conference and she calls out Thunder Rosa for not actually being hurt, which is weird. It's just weird. Maybe that's kayfabe. I don't know.
Yeah, that probably is leaning more storyline, but I actually didn't see that part. I'm not really tuned in. I don't really know anything about Thunder Rosa, so I don't really want to comment on that situation. But yeah, that seems more like the story.
Yeah, I don't really know either, but I was seeing a few tweets saying like it just again goes along with the nobody knows what's real, what's not real because of all the things that are happening. And like if Punk didn't happen last night, I feel like that doesn't like if Punk doesn't do what he does last night, I feel like that quote doesn't get picked up and like picked apart. Like I feel like then everyone just assumes that's kayfabe. But because of what's happening now, people are questioning literally everything about the company and everything everybody's doing. But we will continue to move on. We also have Malachi Black, who doesn't feel like he's being used properly and requested his release. He obviously wrestled last night at All Out, and the reports are that it wasn't picked up by the camera, but apparently he was blowing kisses to the audience as almost a goodbye. So, just kind of like a really like messy summer, that just dated back to that end of May pay-per-view, and just everything that's happened since then. So, like, obviously, like I don't know about you, but that to me just signals that something's off in that locker room right now.
I think that's very evident, and that's kind of the understatement of the century to say something's off in that locker room. I mean, it's bad. It's really really bad. There's now the rumor was Kenny Omega and the rest of the elite, the Young Bucks, apparently threatened to leave yesterday after the whole CM Punk ordeal. Apparently, there was a physical altercation with Punk and the Young Bucks. It just kind of keeps getting worse and worse as the days and the hours progress. People are really interested to see here what the fallout is. I'm probably going to watch Dynamite for the first time in a long time to see what the heck happens. Like, there's a lot of different aspects here, and of course, you touched on Kingston got suspended for punching Sammy. Is he going to suspend CM Punk for punching one of the Young Bucks? Probably not, but maybe.
An Ace Steel. I didn't know who Ace Steel was before today. I have to admit that.
It
When
was
it
a
comes to
steal.
AEW, exactly. Apparently he was in that altercation. He was like on Punk's side. Apparently he was throwing chairs at one of the Young Bucks, and apparently
Oh,
he bit one of the Young Bucks. But again, When I say apparently because I can't confirm that. I've seen that in tweets. I've seen some like reputable sources tweeted out that he was involved in it. Some reputable sources tweet out that he bit somebody. But again, I'm
Ace
not confirming.
Steel.
Ace Steel. I might have gotten that wrong. I literally did not know who this person was. I had to Google them. And that's, again, I'm the most casual of casuals when it comes to AEW. So please don't hold me to that. Obviously, we're WWE guys at the end of the day. Okay. So we're moving forward to last night's All Out pay-per-view. Punk beats Moxley. We all figured that was going to be the case after the mostly squash on Wednesday night. I touched upon, Tony Storm calls out Thunder Rosa. And then MJF comes back. He's the devil. I thought that was great, by the way. I love the sympathy for the devil coming out. Really, really nice play on the fact that he is such a villain and he is the devil. And I think that's just all great.
It was really, really cool, and it should have been the highlight of today. It should have been all that was talked about today, and it was a complete afterthought.
It really is. It really is. MJF, one of the things I want to touch on really quickly before we get into the press conference, because that's obviously the main thing here. MJF had that little snippet of Tony Khan calling him up and being like, I'll give you whatever. I'll pay you this amount of money. And then the amount of money was bleeped out. You don't have to sign an extension. And then, obviously it rolled on from there, which I thought was super interesting because I think, again, the idea that it is a work, but also that there's some truth to the fact that there was a disconnect between MJF and Tony Khan.
Yeah, no, like I said, there's definitely real aspects in that promo. Those are the best promos when they blur the lines. Not like yesterday when it wasn't blurred, it was just yelling at you. Like when there's aspects of truth and theatrics and professional wrestling in a promo, it's like, wow, this is actually really, really good. And they hit on certain points where it's like, that definitely makes sense. And of course, that was his big pipe bomb. And I doubt that was a real voicemail. I don't think so. I'm sure Tony recorded that for his return and it sounded cool, whatever. But no, yeah, it's cool. Like I said, it should have been a massive deal. It was a massive deal, but it was just completely thrown under the rug real quick.
All right. So now we'll get into the press conference. And I just want to read some of these Punk quotes, and I just want to hear what basically you have to say. So we'll start with the first one. And these are in order of the way he said them, but they're not connecting. This is just the main thought. I'm just trying to get the main thought of what he's saying here. So the first one says, my problem is I wanted to bring a guy with me to the top that did not want to see me at the top. And that's talking about Colt Cabana. He said a lot of things about Colt Cabana. I don't maybe feel comfortable repeating everything he said about Colt Cabana, but he says that he has every receipt, every email, every invoice of all of the bills that he paid for Colt Cabana. So obviously establishing the fact that he hates them. He said the fact that he has to sit up there because we have this is his words, because we have irresponsible people who call themselves EVPs and couldn't effing manage a target, spread lies and bull, and put into the media that I got someone fired when I have F all to do with him. I want nothing to do with him. So again, this is now the beginning of that. This goes back to that May promo that he cut.
The couldn't manage a target was a good line. That popped me. I mean, yeah, it's. I don't know what more you want me to say on it. Truthfully, like it's really bad.
It's bizarre. But wait, this is one of my favorite lines of the thing. He goes, "What did I ever do in the world to deserve an empty-headed, effing dumb F like Hangman Adam Page to go out on national television and go into business for himself?" And then he turns to Dave Meltzer and goes, "What, Dave? What did I ever do?" And Meltzer responds back, he said Dave, and I'm pretty sure he was talking to Dave Meltzer at that point. Like, I'm pretty sure that's who he was.
Yeah, and then Dave said, "You tell me," and he said,
and then Dave goes, "You tell me," and he said, "I didn't do a goddamn thing." And I just thought that was a funny, because Meltzer, he's like the big insider and he knows everything that's going on. So I thought that was just really funny. And then the thing that made me most uncomfortable, the most uncomfortable part of the press conference to me was when Tony Khan starts saying, "I made it very clear in Forbes, and I just wanted to make it clear again," and he doesn't even get the word "again" out, and Punk cuts him off. cuts him off and says it's not his position to make it very effing clear.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and now I'm sitting there and I have not felt bad for Tony Khan at all in like him running AEW. He's like got a millionaire father or whatever. In that moment, I looked at Tony Khan's face and he was just so shocked that he was jumped in that moment that he couldn't finish that statement. And I
Mm.
felt really bad for him in that moment because that to me was a signal where things were really starting to go off the rails. If all of the stuff about Colt Cabana and what he said about Adam Page before wasn't, like that was the second where things really turned off the rails.
Yeah, no, it was definitely that's why another reason it's not a work. There's no way. If it's a work, then Tony Khan has no self respect because he looked like the biggest chump ever during this whole altercation. Like you said, he was trying to like kind of calm everything down, trying to take blame for it, and Punk's like, "Nope, you're not doing that. It's not for." And it was like, okay, and then yeah, Tony Khan, that's fair that you feel bad for him. He definitely looked very stunned and shocked and confused and sad.
I mean, the thing is with Tony Khan right now is when he got up in that room with Punk, people will say like, oh, like he should have taken control of that press conference or whatever. You're up there with CM Punk, who's a 20-year veteran of just saying stuff in front of people. You know what I mean? Tony Khan doesn't have that, and he's trying to run a business here. Like Tony Khan is trying to run a business here. There was no way he was just gonna like take control of that situation at that point. It was too far gone, almost to the point where I feel like he had to let Punk finish his thoughts and say what he was going to say. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah,
think
I
there
mean,
was anything he could have done.
it would have looked far worse if he just cut the whole thing like while it was happening. That was never an option.
Yeah. And then I just want to touch on one more thing. Um uh There we go. This is really the last quote that I want to read, where I think this is the most telling of what Punk thinks of himself and everybody else. I'm trying to run an effing business, uh and when somebody who hasn't done a damn thing in the business jeopardizes the first $1 million house that this company has ever drawn off of my back and goes on national television and does that, it's a disgrace to the industry and it's a disgrace to this company. And again, talking about the promo from May that Adam Page cut, this really said a lot to me. Like I thought that was like the most powerful quote of all of this, because he's talking about the promo that he cut. I mean, he was talking about the $1 million house that he brought in on his back, that he was like the only big deal. And look, it's wrestling and guys get egos, and I understand, but he's got to know that there were other people wrestling at that show.
I mean, we know what Punk thinks of himself at this point in 2020. This wasn't like surprising. He's been calling himself the best in the world for over a decade. Like it's not like a yeah, it was cocky, it was arrogant. I mean, he was the main event. It wasn't him. It was him and Moxley, of course, and there was obviously other big. It was Jericho and DB on this card too. Like there was a lot of big matches on this card, but no, I mean, I didn't take much out of that because we know what he thinks of himself. Like that's it's kind of just in one ear after the other at this point. When CM Punk makes like an outlandish claim, it's like yeah, that checks out. That's Punk. But no, I definitely see what you're saying. That you kind of were jumped at that. It's just he's an arrogant guy.
I I was just like, because I just feel like since AEW has started, the message has been together, we're gonna beat the machine, right? And like though sometimes they do say they want to beat WWE, and sometimes they say it's about growing their fan base, which Jericho has said in the past. It's always been like we're gonna do it together, right? Like there's always seems like everyone's gonna be friends and we're all gonna get along and we're all gonna have a great time booking these shows and doing everything together, right?
Yeah,
So when that's been the company message for all these years, and then the guy comes up and says that, I think that's what was striking me. Not because I didn't think that Punk thought of himself as a great wrestler or the guy who was bringing in all the money, but the fact that he went out there and he said it, and like that has not been like the message that I've been getting from AEW for all these years. So anyway, so then Punk, he makes fun of a guy in a Penguins hat, and that's pretty much the press conference. Then, as that press conference rolls on, the altercation is happening backstage, and apparently, you can see the security guard jet out of the press conference. I believe it was Keith Lee and Swerve were on the mics talking with Tony Khan, and then somebody comes and whispers in Tony Khan's ear after they get up. There are pictures of that happening, but yeah, just absolutely wild stuff. There are reports that the Punk beef started in 2019 when they tried to when the Young Bucks tried to get Punk to come out of retirement and they felt slighted. So I guess maybe he said maybe and then went back on it. I don't really know. There wasn't too much in depth on that. I just saw that. But I guess, I mean, really, we've gotten into all the beef now. The fallout of this. What is it going to look like? First of all, who looks the worst here?
Who looks the worst here? I mean,
Is it
Tony Khan.
Punk? Is it the Bucks? Is it Kenny, like the Bucks and Kenny Omega? Is it Hangman Adam Page? Is it Tony Khan? Is it MJF? No, I'm kidding.
It's Tony Khan. Tony Khan definitely looks the worst here. It's his company. It was always clear that the likes of Jericho, the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes were kind of like pulling the strings and running the scene behind the scenes, but like ultimately it felt like Tony Khan always had the final say, but they were kind of like orchestrating everything. That's how I've always perceived AEW. But when it's stuff like this is happening now, and it's so clear that he does not have control of the current situation, this has been going on for weeks now, months now. It just does not. It looks really, really bad. It reflects really poorly on him and his leadership qualities here. Obviously, all the bad talk about Vince McMahon over the years and Triple H over the years, nothing like this would ever happen, ever. Like this would never see the light of day. Things sneak out here and there, rumors come out, but for something this public to happen, where it's just so cut and dry, like he just bashed your entire company, half of your big star. It's just it's tough to come back from, honestly. Like they're gonna be fine, obviously. They make tons of money, but it's just in terms of their credibility, it's gonna be tough to come back from.
This to me, and I think you hit it right on the head. It's Tony Khan. And again, that's not me saying that like he probably should have controlled this better from the very start, but also it's hard to see it making it to this point. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to see that promo that Adam Page cut making it to this because again, I've watched that promo back like 3 times today and I tried to find something where Punk could really get mad. First of all, if you didn't know what was happening between Punk, if you didn't know what happened between Punk and Colt Cabana, you would not know that Adam Page was talking about that when he was talking about his workers' rights thing. Like I tried to find any like even measly reference of it, and like unless you knew what was going on, you didn't. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't have known. So yes, there was like a slight edge to it, but again, it's supposed to be wrestling. It's supposed to be kayfabe. Like he came up with a promo on the spot and it hit. It was great. Like we said, like it was a good wrestling promo that Adam Page cut. That line at the end was good. So I don't know. But yeah, it again, I feel for Tony Khan, but at the end of the day, he does wind up looking like the biggest, like you said, chump. I think you used the word chump. Yeah, that's what he looks like right now. And it's going to be very interesting. And I think you made another good point. Whether it's Vince McMahon, whether it's Triple H, if this happened yesterday, right? We would see releases this morning, right? Like we would have seen CM Punk have been released from his contract, or if he thought Adam Page was in the wrong, Adam Page, you know what I mean? Not saying I don't know whose side they would be on in this, but we would have seen
There would be action. It wouldn't be tolerated.
right. So now we have the question: there were punches thrown, right? Is anybody in the right here? Like, does this just feel like a bunch of bumbling children?
I mean, we can't take sides here. We have no idea what actually happened back
I
there,
agree with that.
but it's just I don't think anyone's ever in the right for fighting about.
I'm not even just talking about that. I'm talking about like the entire argument in general. Like if you date back to May, do you feel like Punk is right here? Do you think that they slighted him? Another thing was I tried to find these rumors. He said Punk mentions in his promo in that interview that the EVPs were spreading all these lies about him. I was trying to find out what else they were saying besides obviously this reference to Colt Cabana being fired on AEW because of Punk, and I couldn't really find anything.
Well, yeah, that was like his big thing. Apparently, he was under the belief that they falsely told the media that he went to Tony and said, fire Colt Cabana from AEW type of thing. And that's why Punk went on his whole rant. He doesn't care anything about Colt Cabana, the whole shebang. But that's what he was referencing.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess the next question is what do you think the other guys in the locker room are thinking right now? And I'm thinking when I say the other guys in the locker room, I'm thinking like the really big guns right now, the Moxleys, the Jerichos, the Adam Coles, um, the Brian Danielsons, you know, what do those guys got to be thinking in their head right now?
I mean, I'm sure a lot of those guys you're talking about very long tenured veterans. It's like they've been around the block. They've seen situations like this before, so it's nothing new. Um, they'll probably try to step up, hopefully, and like more of a leadership role. Some of these like veteran guys like the Chris Jerichos, Daniel Bryan's, these guys can kind of try to fix the waters a little bit. I don't think Moxley at all. I think Moxley is in his own world. I don't think he's going to get involved with this.
That's funny. That's funny because I think that that's his character so much. Like the character that he plays so much that we're just like, oh, he's just a loose cannon back there. He doesn't
Well,
even
I've heard like Renee do interviews and stuff too, talking about John, and like I think he's just the same way off screen as he is on screen.
just dialed up a notch. Is that what you're saying? He's one of those guys where it's his character is just him on 10. Like, yeah.
Probably, I would say
Yeah.
so. But yeah, no, I don't think I'm sure he's at home with Renee and his kid, not caring all about this stuff. He'll show up to work on Wednesday and do his job. But for the rest of them, hopefully these guys try to fix this, try to make things better. I don't know. Something like this, I don't see how it gets better. Like, I don't see how like CM Punk and you're going to sit down CM Punk, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks and tell them like, apologize to each other. Like Punk said it himself like 9 times. So he's a grown man, and this is ridiculous. This is childish. But then he punched someone in the face apparently. So it's tough. It's tough.
And it's also tough from a booking standpoint where it's like you have these guys and like you want to see CM Punk and Kenny Omega get into it, right? Have we had that big blow over yet? I don't think we have, right?
No, they haven't. They haven't fought.
So that is a money match, right? That's as money match as it gets on AEW right now, right? Like, or up there with any other combination of guys that you could actually put together right now. Like, that's one of the matches that I'm sure when Punk came back, everyone it was clamoring over. Probably more than Moxley, because we got to see CM Punk and Dean Ambrose in WWE, albeit for a very short amount of time. Ambrose was with the Shield. It obviously wasn't the same person, but that match was like the two like big guys that we haven't really seen in a very, if they did, it was a very, very long time ago, obviously very different characters. So to me now, you're right. Punk is talking all this stuff about Adam Page and really all those guys, all of the EVPs as he called them. And it's hard to imagine a world where they just make up and you can trust them in a wrestling ring together, right? Like,
yeah, no, I would definitely say so. I don't know where we go from here. Like I said, I'm interested. I'm going to watch for the first time in a while. We kind of they have to decide how they're going to do this. If they're going to try to work this into a storyline, if they're going to try to ignore it and just have MJF and Punk start up their stuff, which was probably the initial plan. Tony Khan and the rest of them have a tough handful of hours before Wednesday to figure out what they're going to do here.
Yeah, that's true. They have 2 days to really hammer this down. Do you see punishments getting handed out here?
No,
I unfortunately don't think so either.
Maybe
they gotta somebody. What's his name? Ace Steel. Ace Steel gets hurt.
Maybe like a fine or something, but maybe they find them both behind the scenes. Like Punk can't not be on that show on Wednesday.
Yeah, or he has to be fired.
Like you can tell Eddie Kingston you're not going to be on for a week and give him a suspension. That doesn't matter. Like you can't. CM Punk just won the title. He just beat Jon Moxley in their biggest pay-per-view. Like he has to be there on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, unless they fire him, which would be, I think, a statement in itself, which I don't think they're going to do, because I don't think Tony Khan has I don't want to say backbone to do that, but I just don't. I think Punk is too much of a draw right now for him to think that maybe he can't fix this, even though we're both sitting here questioning the fact that we don't know if he could fix it, right? Like we actually don't know if he could fix it. So that's going to be really, really interesting to see how it plays out.
Unless the three of them are like, it's him or us, we're quitting tomorrow if you don't fire him. Like unless he gets an ultimatum like of the craziest of crazy extremes, I don't see anything happening to Punk.
Yeah, that's what the other thing I was going to say. Do you think that those three have a lot more leverage now, or those four have a lot more leverage now?
I mean,
with Triple H running WWE, and the perception of WWE seems to be like a place that's changing. And again, we have to give it a lot more time than we've given it. It's only been 2 months, but obviously the tides seem to be turning in WWE, where it seems to be like this fun place to work. You look at what guys are doing on the shows every week, and it looks like they're allowed to be themselves a little bit more. Do you think that there is, like, obviously Punk has already blackballed himself from WWE. He's not going back to WWE, but that doesn't mean that Adam Page or the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega can't make their way to WWE. Do you think that gives them more leverage in this situation?
And yeah, definitely. There's now like a viable alternative. Obviously, Cody already made the jump. Cody was one of the guys we never thought would leave AEW after all the stuff he said about WWE, of course. I don't think they needed any more leverage. Like I said earlier, I feel like these handful of guys run the show and Tony Khan just kind of fronts the bill. Like it's kind of how I've always perceived it, honestly. So I think they kind of already control everything. And maybe, like I said, unless they give an ultimatum, like we're the three of them, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are quitting tomorrow if you don't fire CM Punk. But again, that looks terrible too from a publicity standpoint. It's a lose lose. There's no scenario here where AEW comes out looking good.
It is going to be really interesting to see what happens. Like you said, Wednesday and just going forward. And obviously, there's going to be more reports on what happened as we get farther away from it. The picture is going to become clear. I was taken back by this. This was literally my whole day. I was just trying to figure out what happened here. And obviously, different places had different reports and nothing is very clear. So, but last question, I think, before we wrap up this whole thing. And I don't know, it's hard to say. Cody Rhodes kind of felt like he was at the top of AEW, right? Like you talked about how like everybody was running the show. It felt like Cody was the head guy, right? In terms of like these EVPs, right? Like he was the number one decision maker. Do you think if he was still there that this would be happening?
It's just like an impossible question to answer.
No, I get it. It's a very, very big hypothetical that we're asking here. But do you think it's something that could have been avoided? Do you think Cody is that guy? Cody cut a great promo on like saying about Punk that he wasn't going to turn heel and why he wasn't going to turn heel because he did everything that Punk said he was going to do in that pipe bomb promo. That was a great promo by Cody.
All we can really say on the question right now is things were not this ridiculous and out of hand in public when Cody was there. That's all we can really go off of as of right now. When Cody was there, if there was dirty laundry, it was kept in house, and now he's not there. I don't know if he's the reason. Like I can't tell you, but when he was there, this wasn't public information.
I agree. It might be a coincidence. It might not be a coincidence. There's really no way of us knowing, but I do think that it's an interesting point that it felt like he was AEW, right? Like it felt like he was the brand. And then he was gone. And then he was in WWE in April. He made his debut in WrestleMania. Obviously, he was gone for a little longer than that, but then things go off the rails at the end of May, right? So it's very interesting to me. Like again, there could be nothing there. There could definitely be something there. We really don't know. Do you think Cody's happy he's not there right now?
I wonder if he's involved right now. I wonder if he's like talking to guys behind the scenes. I wonder, like, obviously he doesn't have any say, but I wonder if he's kind of trying to figure out what's going on for himself too.
Like if Adam Page is texting him, like, yeah, you should have seen who just bit who. Like,
Yeah, like something like that. I'm sure he's still friends with all these guys, so I wonder what's going on.
yeah, no, I definitely think that's an interesting like bit that again we're gonna see how all of this plays out, and I'm sure Cody doesn't have anything to say about it other than he's just at home rehabbing, getting ready for his return in a different company. So he probably doesn't have a lot of thoughts on it, but I think that is interesting. Last thing before we wrap up, there might have been a shot taken by Kevin Owens. We're not sure. Kevin Owens apparently like Punk was one of the reasons Punk was mad about WWE is because he never got to main event WrestleMania, right? That was like a big thing for him, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Owens today, after all of this happened, just so happens to post a picture of him and Stone Cold Steve Austin in the middle of the ring as he main events on one of the nights of WrestleMania. Could be a coincidence again. Could be a shot. There is reported beef between the two of them, between Punk and Kevin Owens.
That feels like reaching, but I don't know.
And then the other one is Matt Hardy and his wife both posted in heavy support of the EVPs. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. So it'll be interesting to see. That was the last question. All right, last question, and then we're ending the show for sure. So there was that report the other day that Kenny Omega had that kind of speech in the locker room, right? And it just didn't go over well. It fell completely flat. So do you think Punk could be a voice? I hate using the term, but the voice of the voiceless in the AEW locker room right now. Like, do you think that there are a bunch of guys in that locker room that agree with him, or do you think that he is just so head over himself? Like that to me, like I was just thinking back to that, and I'm like, oh, like they obviously all are going to be on Kenny Omega's side and the Young Bucks side. And then I'm like, wait, no, they had that thing, and the report is it didn't go over well. So maybe guys aren't happy with these guys. Like maybe they're all pissing people off, and Punk is just the only one with, Punk knows he's a big enough name that he would have to say something.
I feel like no one likes CM Punk in general, and no one's going to be on his side. It's just like it's not.
Except for Ace Steel.
Sure, Ace Steel. Like it's. I feel like this is like a Tony Khan and CM Punk versus everyone else type of situation.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that's it. Obviously, we're gonna have more on this. We'll keep covering it in little tidbits as it continues to unfold, and I'm sure it will continue to unfold. It's gonna get worse probably before it gets better for AEW. But hey, they're getting us to tune in on Wednesday night. So that's a small win, right?
It's not the way they want us to tune in, but yes.
Any publicity is good publicity. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments about the situation, I'm sure you do, please leave them below, because I am really interested in all this, and I'd love to hear what other people have to say about it other than just the two of us and obviously the big names on Twitter. So thank you guys again for watching, and we'll see you soon.